The Your Mark on the World show is made possible by our sponsors, including Clean Energy Advisors.
Welcome to Your Mark on the World, bringing you another changemaker with champion of social good, Devin D. Thorpe.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Your Mark on the World show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe, and we're doing this episode today for GoodCrowd.info. Our guest is Wanona Satcher. She's the CEO and founder of ReJuve Corp, a nonprofit based in Atlanta. Winona, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Devin, for having me to appear and talk about my project.
We're excited to talk about what you're doing. You really are doing something new, novel, exciting, and important. Tell us what you're doing.
Yeah, so my focus for my nonprofit for urban design for social good is plug-in pods. And so plug-in pods are refurbished, chic shipping containers for affordable housing and small business spaces, preferably in low wealth communities.
Yeah, I think this is really an important idea, and I'm excited to see you get it off the ground. You told me in the preparatory materials that you can get a container for about $3,000, but it's not ready to live in at that point. What does it take to get a container ready to be habitable? Clearly, there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, actually, so my price point for what I'm trying to do to keep it affordable, to provide an affordable space, is to look at a price point of $20,000 to make it habitable. And so the prices to acquire between $2,000 and $3,000 differ depending on the size. So typically they're 20 feet to 40 feet containers. I'm focusing on 40 feet, a little bit more space, a little bit more flexibility. So the shell is there, the structural integrity is there because of what it already is, which is great. And what it's going to take for what we're trying to do, our team here at ReJuve, is to use the funds for basic upfits for mechanical, electrical, anything you would use to upfit a home, but for a lot cheaper and a lot less of the construction time. So we want to keep our price point between 20 and 40. It also depends on the level of customization. But for an affordable home, specifically for millennials and seniors, it's not that complicated. So,
yeah. So how do you deal with things that have to come in and out of the container? I'm thinking of electricity, plumbing, sewer. How does all that work?
Yeah, it's actually quite easy, and that's what our current crowdfunding campaign, the prototype, the first pod, is all about, testing that. But essentially, it's similar to upfitting a small home or micro house. I mean, the basic fundamentals of working and aligning with the building codes, local zoning codes, reflect the same as you would do for a house structure, just a little bit smaller. So, and cheaper in that respect. So upfitting the containers with electrical and insulation, same way you would do a typical home or a prefab modular unit, adding windows and doors, fabricating and welding the walls to fit doors and windows, adding skylights, adding water and sewer upfits. I mean, those are very similar and very, very easy and less time consuming for that kind of a small space compared to a home.
Now, containers, when they're used for shipping,
yes,
are frequently stacked. Do you envision a situation where you would stack the containers, stack the homes, make small apartment buildings with these units?
Yeah, and that's the cool factor about, from a landscape architectural standpoint, which is my background, of utilizing smaller sites to fit, more people for the affordable housing idea. And so being able to stack, typically containers can be stacked 8 containers high. And so to be able to stack them 2, 3, 4 containers high is easy. Because again, it already has the structural capabilities. Of course, you want to make sure the welding fabrication is set and safe. But yeah, definitely for a smaller infill development unit in the urban core, urban area, that is what I'm excited about using containers for, is the ability to stack them almost like Legos very quickly and very efficiently.
Yeah, so it seems like you can really solve the construction cost problem with the pods. How do you solve the problem of the land cost?
Yeah, so that's another reason why I want to use these containers as a tool for affordable housing. So, typically any kind of construction, the land cost completely increase your bottom line. With the containers and fabricating prefab units, you can do this at a warehouse. Everything you need to do at a warehouse, and so the quality assurance and quality control is a lot higher. And so you're less likely to have to disturb land, trees. You're less likely to have to keep going on and off sites for building materials. Here, you can find a site, preferably a flatter site, but you can still do the grading as necessary, and plop these containers down and plug into existing utilities, which is why I'm focused on more urban areas and blighted properties that tend to have had already structures on them or still do, because you have access that cuts down your utility costs and utility hookups. So the site work decreases with the use of containers because you're plopping them down versus having to build at the site there. You can build out a manufacturing space and deliver them to the site. So it also cuts down the environmental concerns of tree removal, land disturbance. It cuts down on greenhouse gas emissions and carbon emissions because you're not trucking as much. Luckily, my supplier is close to the area of choice, so that's even better. And you're cutting also down on costs of having staff hurt themselves on site because you're doing everything at a warehouse. So those are some of the pros to using containers for sites.
Now, it seems like the containers are weatherproof by design, right?
Right.
Because they're designed to come across the ocean, on a train across the country in the blizzard.
Exactly.
So how much insulation is needed to keep them comfortable for humans?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so the insulation really comes in for the heating and air, because those things can get really cold or really, really hot. And the insulation, the R values, again, reflect what is necessary for a home. So that part is easy, but yeah, definitely, you do not want to live in a container without insulation, and that's against code anyway. I've spoken with another container company here in Atlanta, and what's interesting is that they did a project. My understanding is they did a project in the Caribbean, and there was either a big storm, and the only structures that were left were really the containers, because they are built to withstand hurricanes, basically. And so now you're talking about utilizing these containers as houses for superstorms that we might get here in the United States. That's a lot safer than using the typical mobile homes or even just regular new construction.
Yeah, fascinating idea. So the outside appearance of a container is
not attractive.
Dare I say suboptimal? Yeah, not
attractive.
I'll go with that. Some people might use more pejorative language. What do you do to make them appear acceptable in a neighborhood?
Yeah, aesthetically pleasing. So this is where I think creativity comes in, and design, and also utilizing youth. And so what part of our program is to not just doing this because of the affordability of it, but also the job creating factor of it. And so creating jobs in local manufacturing, urban onshoring, bringing jobs back to local manufacturing jobs that are safer and more environmentally friendly to our communities in the United States, but also hiring youth and young artists to help us wrap the exterior of these containers in very interesting and creative and beautifying ways. From a marketing standpoint, from a retail commercial standpoint of small businesses, containers pose an amazing outreach canvas, because you can wrap these containers. Wrapping means you can paint these containers with business name, company names, and that is your PR that you need to help you solidify your clientele. So the level of basic painting all the way to very beautiful graphic design is we're leaning more towards the graphic design piece to reflect the community, to also hire and engage youth as part of building for the communities that they live in.
Interesting approach. Now, when we talk about affordable housing, traditional housing costs in most parts of the United States, if you're going to meet code, you're probably talking about hard to get construction costs under $100,000 a unit.
Right. Right.
You're talking about bringing it down to $20,000 a unit.
Mm-hmm.
That would translate, it seems, into really rough numbers into a $200 a month rent,
Right,
or payment of some
right.
sort.
Mm-hmm.
That really does get into the range of extreme affordability, and that is what's lacking in most communities. There's almost in no community, there isn't a place where you can go get a $200 a month rent, and that's why we have in the country hundreds of thousands of people who are homeless. It seems to me, at least that's a contributing factor.
Sure, that's true. And what we say is everything starts at home. And we look at this approach not just as a housing conversation, but as a poverty conversation. And the reason why is because it's all systematic and it's all connected. So from the affordable housing standpoint, what we have now and what has been increasing is that people are having to decide if they're going to buy groceries or pay rent. And so which is a terrible decision that you have to make, or if they're going to be able to afford transit or health care or child care versus paying a mortgage. And so what we're suggesting with this particular program is not only providing affordable housing so that you don't have to make those decisions, but the price point makes sense to where you can live, work, play, and thrive in your community without being displaced, because prices and markets do increase. I mean, you do want a level of positive impact in communities that are blighted. You do want revitalization. But what comes with that are people that are displaced, especially seniors. And so what we're looking at these containers, not even just the structure, but using them as tools and effective and efficient tools to not only bring down the price of housing, but to affordably infill develop lots within these communities where you can place a 20 or 40 foot affordable house container on the same lot as a small business. And so what happens is you create a system now where you have an individual or a tiny family that can live here and work here, be part of that positive change without being displaced and not having to make those decisions of whether they're going to grow a family today or pay their rent. And also, we're strategically looking at sites where we can do these plug-in pods that are near transit. So now you're promoting walkability, you're promoting healthy communities, and we're proactively developing for what's to come. And so the containers, these pods, I call them plug-in pods, are what we say they're temporary solutions for permanency. And so we're looking at using these affordable housing pods and small business pods as testing sites so that a small business or a homeowner or a renter can live in this space for 6 to 8 months, or utilize the space for a small business, test the market, build up credit, and then move into a brick and mortar. So we're not just building pods, we're essentially rebuilding communities. That's really what this is about.
No. But the pods are constructed such that they will last a very long time, right?
That's correct.
Could be a permanent dwelling, right?
They could be. Yeah, they could be. And in fact, we have had conversations with universities and professors. University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill is one, where a professor there said, no, we would love to use these pods as mobile clinics or permanent clinics, depending on the situation on the site, for rural communities that have just been torn apart by the lack of healthcare and access to healthcare. So now the uses are expanding to where we can even use these not just for affordable homes, but for oncology clinics or urgent care clinics or STEM labs in communities of need as accessory to larger healthcare systems. So yeah, I mean, it's not just a temporary use, it's also a permanent use. And that's what I love about the flexibility of something so modular, that you can create these quick partnerships and quick wins politically, which is always a good thing when you're talking about social good, for a long-term impact.
Yeah. Well, I love what you're doing. Now tell people about the crowdfunding campaign.
Sure.
To get this kicked off.
Yeah. So I have a crowdfunding campaign for my company that I launched on actually a quite new platform called I Fund Women. and excited about iFund Women. Karen Khan, a rock star, she has worked for Yahoo and Google, and decided that, you know, it's important to support women-owned businesses and support the female economy. So she started this crowdfunding campaign geared towards supporting women and women-owned businesses at a certain point. And so it's a vetting process at two companies that are ready to scale or ready to prototype their ideas. And I'm part of the beta class, so I'm one of the guinea pig classes for this crowdfunding campaign. And so we are raising $20,000 to prototype our first plug-in pod here in Atlanta, Georgia. And we are currently right now at 10,920. So we really want to get to, we have enough funds to go ahead and acquire a container from our supplier, CGI International here in Atlanta. And luckily, I think we were donated a site, and I say think because we're still working out the details, but donated a site here in Atlanta, which we're really excited about, in the community that we wanted to focus on. And that saves costs, so we can build and design on site until we get the funds to, which will be second phase, to purchase a manufacturing center. The more you do, obviously, the lower your costs get. So that's the second phase of that. But first we got to build it, we got to design it, we got to touch it, feel it, test it. And so $20,000 is our goal, and that $20,000 will allow us to do everything that we need to do, including all of the mechanical, electrical, painting, make it aesthetically pleasing, HVAC, air conditioning, and some minor furniture. So our focus originally was to do an affordable housing pod, but we've been in conversations with potentially might do a small business pod because of there are interested startups who want to get into the restaurant business but have not gotten to that point where they can afford a brick and mortar yet. So we're still, the use of it may change, but that's where we are right now. So have about 50 more days to get to 20,000. So luckily we're at 10,009. We've had some amazing donors. We've had 2.3 thousand views of the video that we have on the crowdfunding campaign, which is huge. I have been tweeting, friends have been tweeting. We have about 285 shares of the campaign so far, page and video. So a lot of FFFs, friends, family, and followers have been sharing and donating what they can to this particular crowdfunding campaign, and it has leveraged interviews like this for more awareness, even leveraged potential conversations and partnerships with other big nonprofits here in Atlanta who are trying to do the same thing when it comes to finding solutions for affordable housing. That is a big issue, especially in politics. I mean, cities are trying to figure out, we're growing quickly, how are we going to do this affordably and efficiently, quickly? So that's where I come in.
Oh, fantastic. Now, you are doing something really, truly remarkable, and you're going to be a hero to a lot of people.
I hope so.
Who do you look up to? Who inspires you?
Two people. Well, a lot of people inspire me, but I would say two key people, my grandmother and my mom. I would say my grandmother because for a couple of reasons. So one, she was a huge supporter and was naturally a fighter for civil rights and equitable development here in Atlanta. She would tell me stories of actually meeting Albert Einstein later in life. He was a big advocate for civil rights, and I'm a huge physics geek, so that was exciting to hear, to see that kind of connection. But just her push and her fight for equitable development and poverty, housing, she kind of instilled that in me at an early age, and I've been volunteering ever since I was 6 years old, and that just kind of stuck with me and led me to what I'm doing now. My mom is a huge impact and someone I look up to because her way of parenting was parenting creativity. And so to pair fighting for social justice and equity with creativity kind of I think that's really what helped me get to where I am right now. I know that. So, and she was a single mom, and so everything she did was to continue to promote outside of the box thinking. And I'm not a parent yet, but I know there's no manual of how to be a parent, and so I think she did a phenomenal job with what she had. So I would say those are my two biggest people that I look up to. And my grandmother, unfortunately, has dementia and early stage Alzheimer's, and so that was one of the key audiences that I'm interested in working with, to provide these pods as potential accessory dwelling units for families who have family members and grandparents to age in place near a family member. So you can have a pod behind your home, and that can house your aging elderly, but in close proximity, because medical costs are expensive for caregivers, as we know too.
Sure.
So that's been a big push, for that use.
Now, why do you feel personally responsible for doing this? This is a hard project. This is going to take a lot of energy, a lot of time. What motivates you to tackle this?
Well, I think one key motivation, when I was in architecture school at Auburn University on the landscape architecture program and community city planning programs, we had the opportunity to do a really cool project with B.B. King in Indianola, Mississippi, which is where he's from, where he was originally from. And to make a long story short, as we were leaving, we were there for about 3 to 4 days for the project to do a museum that focused on mixing blues music and talking about the history of slavery and how music helped people to kind of overcome those hardships. I met a young girl who worked at a fast food restaurant we had stopped before we left, about 15 years old, who told me that she had never heard of the civil rights movement. And that completely blew me away, huge, and I've never forgotten that. And it was frustrating because I didn't have the time to sit down and really talk with her about what that movement was, what it is, how you could be a part of it. And I felt that I was kind of cheated by the time, or lack thereof, and the opportunity to explain to her what she's missing out on. And this was around 2002, 2003, so this was recent. And I realized at that point that my purpose was to use design as a tool for equity and social good. You know, could one of these plug-in pods be, these containers, be an educational lab that I could drop and plop down into this space for her to learn more about herself and her history, and that she can become a lawyer or whatever she wants to do to continue the legacy of fighting for the rights of, everyone. So that was a very defining moment and validating moment for what it is that I did then and what it is that I do now.
Oh, that's great. Well, Wanona, what is your superpower?
I would say my superpower is I'm really good at connecting the dots. I'm a connector. I am an introvert, so it tires me to do that. I'm not an extrovert naturally, but no, I think I am good at connecting. I think in systems, and I think in multidisciplines. So it's helpful for me to identify a problem and understand a problem through all the different pieces and symptoms that make it what it is, and then trying to create solutions that solve those particular problems, and then connect the individuals that I want to inspire to empower themselves, and connect those individuals with higher growth and higher resource individuals. So connecting the dots to understand the actual problems to solve, and then connecting the people to resources that they need to help all of us solve the problems. So I think connecting is what I do best.
Oh, great. Well, Wanona, we sure appreciate you taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you.
Tell people again how they can find the crowdfunding campaign and connect with you.
Okay, great. So number one, the crowdfunding campaign, if you go Google ifundwomen.com, and you will find my project Plug-in Pods, and please donate. I have wonderful rewards. I have renderings on there, information about myself and my team on that website. It also has a link to my Twitter account that I'm always on social media. Devin, I'm sure you probably kind of figured that out, that I tweet a lot at Wajisa, WAJISA, and my company Twitter is ReJuve, ReJuve 2. Also Instagram, Wajisa and ReJuve, the same. I'm always on there as well, and Facebook. You can look up my name, Wanona Satcher, and LinkedIn. So I'm always Snapchatting too. So I'm always social media is the best way to get in contact with me. I tend to respond very quickly. You can also email me at wanonasatcher22@gmail.com, and you can also visit my website, www.wanonasatcher.com. Our company website is www.rejuvecommunities.org, and you can learn more about what it actually is that we do. Plug-in Pods is one of many, but that's the focus right now. So ifundwomen.com, Plug-in Pods, and at Wajisa on Twitter.
Fantastic. Well, Wanona, thank you so much for being with us today. And we
Thanks,
wish you
Devin.
every success with your crowdfunding campaign.
I appreciate your help, and thanks to you and our future donors and our audience, and I look forward to updating you as we grow and expand.
All right. Let's do some good.
Clean Energy Advisors creates investment opportunities in the renewable energy sector that provide clients with predictable income, preservation of capital, and positive impact. Clean Energy Advisors is committed to providing clients with investment opportunities with both market rates of return and measurable impact.
Thank you for listening. This podcast was recorded via Google Hangouts on Air and is available at youtube.com/Devin Thorpe. Subscribe to this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes by searching for Your Mark on the World. Every weekday, Devin hosts a CEO, celebrity, entrepreneur, or other changemaker here on the Your Mark on the World show to inspire and prepare you to make your mark. Devin is a champion of social good, writing about, advocating for, and advising people who are doing good. He is a Forbes contributor who is a recognized thought leader in social entrepreneurship, impact investing, and crowdfunding. To book Devin as a speaker, visit devinthorpe.com. Learn more about Devin's work at yourmarkontheworld.com.